Welcome to your lessons as we begin phase 2 of our cycle coach training together. In this first lesson, we are going to get very clear on why we are here. Because while periods are certainly gaining mainstream popularity, there is still a certain resilience and devotion required to stay the menstrual path. If you take a tiny peek outside of the cozy menstrual bubble that we are all engulfed in, you'll quickly see most of the planet have absolutely no idea what we're talking about when we openly discuss periods in a positive way. By becoming crystal clear on why we are here, when the tides of resistance or frustration or doubt try to take us away from this important work that we have all been called to share, we will have an anchor to hold on to. In this lesson, we are going to explore why the world and your client needs menstrual cycle awareness now more than ever. We'll cover some of the benefits of this practice and what the consequences are of not integrating menstrual understandings into our work with women and people who bleed. So let's kick things off with some thoughts I had while watching Netflix recently, more specifically the Brené Brown Call to Courage Netflix special. Now, quick spoiler, this won't be the first time I reference Brené's work on shame, vulnerability, and belonging in this training. So I caught my breath and I pressed pause while watching as soon as Brené said the following. The opposite of belonging from the research is fitting in. Fitting in is assessing and acclimating. It's here's what I should say or be. Here's what I shouldn't say. Here's what I should avoid talking about. Here's what I should dress like, look like. That's fitting in. Belonging is belonging to yourself first, speaking your truth, telling your story, and never betraying yourself for other people. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are, and that's vulnerable. Now, I've tried to articulate for a long time the sense of belonging and sovereignty I have felt within myself after practicing menstrual cycle awareness for many years, and also this same phenomenon I've observed in my clients. On one hand, menstrual cycle awareness is simply paying attention to your period. It's charting, it's tweaking a few lifestyle behaviors, maybe developing a more positive relationship with your period and your cycle, and it's definitely learning how to say thanks but no in the premenstruum. All of that is true. Life does get simply easier when paying attention to your period. But the benefits go so much deeper than that. And as I heard Brené talk about the difference between fitting in and belonging, I was struck by all of the damn fitting in that we have done in our lives as women who menstruate. And it's not our fault. You know, our society demands that we do. And I'm talking very literally here. Menstrual shame and stigma is real. The lack of menstrual policies in workplaces is real. Period poverty is real. The void of menstrual and fertility education for young people is real. Gender inequality is real. Linear modes of productivity and this 9 to 5, Monday to Friday working week are real. The rise of menstrual-related diseases, syndromes, and other health issues that are either exclusively or mostly female-centric is real. The lack of menstrual research is real. The lack of support for mothers is real. The shocking statistics for Black and ethnic minority women and their menstrual and maternal health is real. Women have been trying to fit in to a patriarchal paradigm for a few thousand years now, and we are tired, we are burnt out, sick, confused, and frankly over it. Ultimately, this work is about belonging. It's giving women and people who bleed an opportunity to belong. Surprise! This training is about so much more than teaching women how to simply sync their schedule up with their cycle. And of course, we are going to talk about that. But this work is also about speaking your truth. It's about telling your story and empowering your clients to do the same. It's about being who you are on every single day of your menstrual cycle in every hormonal phase without requiring you to betray yourself by changing or suppressing who you are and what you need. How can we expect to cultivate any sense of belonging in the female body when we haven't been taught to fully accept our whole selves as menstruating cyclic beings? Now, I would love to sit down and to talk with Brene about menstrual cycle awareness and how I see its potential for giving women a big, fat permission slip to be their true selves, to address fears of vulnerability and shame and the misinformation about menstrual cycles that's holding them back from doing so. But even better than that is sitting down with you, because you, like me, have answered the call to share menstrual cycle awareness with the world. So what is menstrual cycle awareness? Coined by Red School founders Alexandra Pope and Shani Hugo Wurlitzer, MCA, menstrual cycle awareness, describes the practice of paying attention to where you are in your cycle each day, what you are experiencing, and how to care for your changing cyclical needs. To expand on this, I would add that menstrual cycle awareness recognizes that the monthly female hormonal cycle not only exists, but that its cyclic nature profoundly affects the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual experience of those of us with ovaries. This second clock, a term that I love, coined by Alyssa Vitti, with its distinct hormonal phases and remarkable inner events and processes, shapes your life experience from menarche until menopause and beyond, a mere 35 to 40 years. There are a few things that I have heard over and over again in the years that I've shared this work. And one of the most common is, we should have learned this in school. I agree. Not only does a young girl at menarche deserve to have access to education on managing her period and to have safe and accessible menstrual products, but she also deserves to know that her body has begun to ovulate, to bleed, to exist on an entirely different hormonal cycle than the one she has been on, and also entirely different to her male friends or friends of hers who don't have ovaries. This menarche girl is now awakening to her own menstruality. This is a fabulous term defined by psychotherapist Jane Catherine Seven as the female life process of the 4 M's that a woman traverses during her life. So there is menarche, the first period, the menstrual cycle years, so every day of every month, throughout those years of bleeding. There is menopause and the mature life, the post-menopausal years. Menstruality is the lived experience of having a menstrual cycle and being shaped by the cyclic nature of it. So imagine for a moment if our menarche girl was given this information in a positive and encouraging tone, in a way that instilled pride in her, curiosity, and perhaps even excitement. Why not to feel excited for what was to come for her? Imagine if her foundational understanding of her body was that it is a powerful vessel for creation and also a safe sanctuary for her to be herself, just as she is on any day of her cycle. No need to shapeshift, no need to contort or suppress or make any excuses for her cyclic nature. Imagine. But this isn't really the case, is it? Not right now. No, it is not. It's getting better, but we're not quite there yet. So, how do we really feel about having periods? In a recent survey of approximately 3,500 girls and women aged 12 to 46 plus, over 40% of the group across all age groups expressed predominantly negative sentiments about their period, with 17% disliking every single thing about it. For girls aged 12 to 18, these numbers look even more disheartening, with 41% disliking everything, another third finding periods to be mostly bad, and only 10% finding them to be either mostly good or okay all round. This survey asked all age groups then what would make menstruation a better experience. What would help to make their periods a natural process that those who menstruate will experience nearly 450 times in a lifetime? What would help to make this a more positive experience? So this I found fascinating, but not at all surprising. 6 out of 10 respondents across all age groups said they'd like time to rest when bleeding, and 30% of the group wanted to be able to talk more openly about menstruation, with 35% claiming to be tired of making excuses for when they bled and felt unwell. Nearly 4 in 10 wanted cheaper menstrual products, and 23% simply wanted to be able to buy those products without feeling ashamed. Finally, nearly a quarter of the group simply wanted to be able to speak to their partner or to an employer about what they were experiencing and just communicate their cyclic needs. Pretty simple stuff. I read this as many women want to be able to follow the ebb and flow of their cycle rather than being full steam or month long. They want to be able to share openly and unashamedly about their cyclic needs and experiences, both in their personal life as well as in their professional life, and to rightfully no longer feel the financial burden of simply managing their period. Now, there are many social, cultural, economical, and political hurdles that are currently preventing these changes from being the norm. And we will get to some of those in this training. But ultimately, Cycle Coach is about how you can inform and empower your clients, the people that you are working with, to discover the power, potential, and yes, the positive benefits of being in a body that bleeds. This is what menstrual cycle awareness can achieve when successfully integrated into our lives. The recognition of our true nature, the self-knowing and understanding of how to live in harmony with our monthly clock, and ultimately the freedom to simply be as we are. Now, I want you to close your eyes for me. You have a little break from the screen. So do that now. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe. Listen and just imagine for a moment. I want you to imagine with me that if, when you began to bleed all those years ago, you were taught to chart your cycle and you were taught what to pay attention to, how to interpret the signs and signals from your body as golden feedback on the status of your health. Imagine that you were taught how to create in alignment with your hormonal cycle and how to optimize the strengths of each hormonal phase to express yourself fully. Imagine if you knew how each week of your cycle could reveal something special and sacred about who you really are and give you an opportunity every single month for all dimensions of yourself to shine. Imagine if you understood completely as a teenager that it is absolutely normal to experience yourself and the world differently from week to week, and that there is nothing wrong or crazy about you for noticing that. Imagine if you had the understanding that the same applies to all of your female friends. Imagine if you were taught how to manage contraception naturally and to trust in your own observations about when you were and weren't fertile. Imagine if when you went to see your GP, you were asked to share the observations that you'd made over the past few cycles. And even more excitingly, you were listened to. Imagine if a positive menstrual culture was the norm in your childhood home, amongst your friends, in your romantic relationships, in the workplace, where you've studied, in all aspects of our modern society. Imagine if our public health campaigns included menstrual cycle awareness, splashed upon billboards and pamphlets. Imagine if menstrual products were provided globally as a basic human right for half of the population. And imagine if there were an abundance of diverse options available for the abundance and diversity of cervixes, vaginas, and vulvas worldwide. And of course, in the realm of coaching, healing, and facilitation, where we're all hanging out, imagine if the menstrual cycle was considered a blueprint that women could use to better understand themselves and to identify when imbalances were occurring in the body. Imagine if menstrual cycle awareness was a standard practice tool in personal development circles. Imagine that it was considered a powerful framework for self-actualization and creative fulfillment. Imagine if the female hormonal cycle was considered in the worlds of health, fitness, and well-being. No more weekly diet plans and 30-day yoga challenges. Imagine if menstrual health and mental health teamed up to fully support women experiencing cyclic anxiety, depression, and mood disorders across the cycle. Imagine if paying attention to periods was considered a spiritual practice, that the bleeding phase was in fact holy ground, that all of the cycle was sacred. Or a sexual practice, a creative practice, a practice to enhance relationships. Whatever your specialty is as a facilitator, imagine your highest vision for the impact that menstrual cycle awareness could have on your work and also on the planet. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Whatever your industry, your passion, focus, or specialty is, if you are working with women or people who menstruate, incorporating menstrual cycle awareness into your approach can transform lives. It is going to elevate the quality and value of your work, and it has the potential to create a ripple effect that can positively change relationships, families, communities, workplaces, schools, and beyond. Cycle awareness really does have the power to change the world, and I believe that. I also believe that to deny your clients and community these understandings is to deny them their right to know the truth of their physical body, their psyche, emotional self, and spiritual self. So whatever you teach and share, this information can only make your work more accessible, more relatable, more implementable. Implementable? Is that a word? More implementable and definitely more powerful. Lots to reflect on from this lesson. In your reflection exercises, I want you to ponder why you practice menstrual cycle awareness, as well as consider the diverse reasons why your clients and others in your community might benefit from MCA. They might be different. You'll also consider what the consequences will be if we do not integrate menstrual cycle awareness into our work with women. What does it look like if menstruality never becomes a household name and the lived experiences of menstruating women continue to be ignored, shamed, suppressed, and unattended? Sometimes I find this method of thinking really helpful and surprisingly motivating. What happens if we don't do this work? Good one to come back to when doubt creeps in. So we began on a Brene Brown quote, and we are going to finish on one too, like a lovely Brene sandwich. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Just going to repeat that last little chunk of that line there. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Recognizing one's true nature and living in greater congruence with those trusted observations ultimately creates an interior world that is ripe with self-acceptance, sovereignty, safety, confidence, and a sense of belonging to oneself. No more feeling perpetually unsure. A menstrually embodied being has been mindfully and consistently charting and observing and listening and tweaking and cooperating and making all sorts of behavioral changes to take care of their changing physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, sexual, social, and creative needs. And this builds something very, powerful. This builds that self-acceptance, those levels of self-acceptance that increase our sense of belonging in this world. And this is what you have been called to do, to help other women who bleed erect this infrastructure in their lives, this infrastructure of menstrual cycle awareness, so that they too can experience the magic of knowing, accepting, celebrating, and belonging to themselves. I'm so glad that you are here.